Hi everyone, welcome back. It's episode 80 of the Art of Business English. Andrew Ambrosi's here again for part 2 of my series on 10 hacks to improve your communication skills in English. Now, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, of course you should go back and take a look at that, episode 79 of the Art of Business English. And in this week's episode, I'll be finishing up the last 5, of my 10 hacks. So basically, of course, these ones are designed to make you a little bit of a better communicator, things that you should be aware of to help you improve your communication skills in both social situations as well as work situations. Now, last week we looked at quite a few. We looked at sequencing, we looked at keeping it simple, being clear and concise. We looked at the importance of listening, and the last one, I can't remember what it was now, but it's okay. We'll go back and have a look at that in your own time. So this week, let's finish off with the next 5 of my 10 hacks for improving your communication skills. Okay, so the first one is clarify what you mean. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Well, often we think we're being clear, but we're in fact not being very clear. That's because we really, not really sensitive to to whether or not the person is understanding what we are saying. So to avoid problems, we should always just assume that the person doesn't really understand what we're saying, or we should always make sure they understand what we're saying. So we should always try and clarify. Now, to clarify, all we need to do is use some language like, is that clear? Or, did you understand that? Or, if you want to clarify what someone's saying to you, you could say, so when you said this, did you mean that? Or, if I understand you correctly, you're saying tal, okay? So there are different ways to do it. We can do it if we're clarifying our message. So did you understand that? Is that clear? Should I demonstrate that with an example? Or would you like me to clarify that? So that's if we are trying to clarify something. Now, the other one is if we're trying to clarify what someone has said to us. So, if I understand you correctly, you're saying, when you said this, did you mean that? Could I just review the last thing you said? Or could you just clarify the last thing you said? Okay, so this type of language is what we can use to effectively clarify what we're saying or clarify what someone is saying to us, okay? Really important. Remember, the most important thing is not to be quiet because you are embarrassed, okay? You should always be confident enough to say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Could you clarify your last point? If you just be quiet, then you'll lose, track of the conversation, and then it's going to get worse because you won't understand what's happening. And it could be an important meeting, could be that you are with a supplier or, with a potential client. And if these things are not clarified, then it could lead to problems in the future. Okay, so let's look at the next one. The next one is use intonation. And I just did that. Use intonation. Why do we need to use intonation? Well, many people who speak English as a foreign language, they think they sound silly. Like, oh, but if I speak like this, then I will sound silly. Well, in fact, if you just speak flat and like this, then, that's not how we speak in English. We are quite, exotic in the way that we use this intonation. And it's really important because it helps to create the nice flow of English. And this is where the effect of the schwa, which I've spoken about a lot, the neutral, then la neutra, the schwa is effective with the correct intonation, okay? That's how we keep this rhythmic flow of English going. And also, it engages your listener. When you speak with intonation, you help them follow your story and they don't get bored with the monotone. Okay, monotone is very bad. Okay, so use intonation. Don't be shy. Don't think you sound silly, because in fact you sound more natural and more native when you try and use intonation in English. But again, use the intonation correctly, because if you put the accent or the stress in the wrong place, then it can sound weird. Okay, for example, pressure, the intonation's at the beginning, not pressure. Okay, so intonation is important, but also putting the intonation in the correct place is super important too. All right, what is the next one on our list? Well, use body language and hand gestures. Yeah, it's super important. A lot of people don't realize the importance of body language and hand gestures. However, they're incredibly important. People get a lot of subliminal or indirect messages through your body language. So encourage you to use effective body language a lot. Okay, it's very important. And we can really demonstrate things and engage the listener by using our hands and expressions on our face, moving around a little bit is also important. So really important, especially effective use of your hands. Okay, so encourage you to be effective at using body language in English. All right, next one on my list is learn new vocabulary and use it. I mentioned in the previous episode that you should keep it clear and concise and simple. However, being an effective communicator means you have a grasp on a wide range of vocabulary. It doesn't necessarily need to be technical vocabulary or vocabulary that people use in books, which is quite literary, but you need to have a nice range of vocabulary, because then you'll have obviously the words required to express yourself in many different situations. So please, I encourage you to actively learn vocabulary. There's a lot of vocabulary that you can learn through my episodes. In fact, I'll be starting a new section for premium members, where we'll be doing a vocabulary section at the end of each episode, as well as the pronunciation of the vocabulary. So that's something to look at. But learning vocabulary is super important, and it's super easy. It's something that you can do every week. And if you're working in English, then you've got lots of opportunities to put it into practice. So learn new vocabulary, because it will help you express yourself better. Okay, and what's the next one? Well, the next one is smile, and this is actually the last one too. Smile and be polite. A smile goes a long way. Effective communicators smile, and they are also polite. Politeness also goes a long way. You may have heard me say this before. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. I mean, people will really warm to someone who is polite, who smiles, and they're a nice person. I mean, this is great for business. It's great for your networking, great for your social skills, and it's good just to be a nice, polite person. I mean, politeness will open many doors for you, and it will get a lot of respect that people respect people who are polite, kind, courteous, and generous with their time. So those are my 5 tips or hacks for improving your communication skills in business. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you found this information useful. Please share it with your friends, and if you do have time, I would love it if you went to iTunes or Spotify and gave The Art of Business English a 5-star review. It will be super helpful. I don't really do much to promote The Art of Business English, so it just goes on word of mouth, and it'd be great to get more people on to The Art of Business English, so we can reach more people and help more. So if you've got time, drop us a 5-star review. That would be awesome. In the meantime, everyone, I hope you've had a great week, and I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you all next week on The Art of Business English. Take care. Bye for now.